cannabinoids for sports recovery. CBD and CBG-based beverage shows promise in relieving DOMS. DOMS is an acronym, DOM, which stands for delayed onset muscle soreness. So a sport drink formulation containing cannabidiol and cannabidiol, among other ingredients, may support recovery from exercise-induced delayed onset muscle soreness, according to a study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition. We'll go to that journal in just a second, but I'll read the rest of the headline. The randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled pilot study. Okay, what does that mean? That means that basically they had two groups. They had a control group and they had an experimental group, and they were able to tell the effect of the medicine by looking at the difference in the response from the two different groups. So this included a total of 40 participants who were randomly assigned to either the active or placebo groups. The placebo is the non-active group. The two groups were well balanced in terms of demographic and baseline characteristics. So what that means is that they looked at different ages, they looked at folks with different weight, maybe different pre-existing medical conditions, trying to balance out a demographic to understand how people with different genetic makeups and perhaps different pre-existing conditions might interact to the treatment. So the beverage powder contained both CBD and CBG, but also included branched-chain amino acids, beta-caryophyllene, and magnesium citrate to aid in recovery, similar to other commercially available products. Well, let me stop and just comment on this right here. So if you read the manuscript, what you'll find out is that these aren't just CBD and CBG, they're nano-emulsified CBG and CBD, right? Because we know CBG and CBD aren't very water-soluble, but when they're nano-emulsified, now they're in a dispersible form that's highly absorbable and highly bioavailable. Okay. So the results from the pilot study reveal that a good safety and tolerability were associated with the beverage powder containing CBD, CBG, beta-caryophyllene, the branched-chain amino acids, and magnesium citrate. Preliminary results on the effects suggested that repeated dosing of this cannabinoid-based formulation over 3.5 days improved functional aspects of recovery and could decrease self-reported soreness or discomfort associated with DOMS, the authors wrote. At 74 hours after exercise, participants in the active group reported less average soreness / discomfort compared to the placebo group, which the authors noted was a moderate treatment difference, as it was not significant at the 95% interval. And so what that means, that's just statistics talks, because you're trying to compare two different groups. So you have to make sure that the error bars within those allow for pairwise comparison, or else it's statistically problematic. A potential treatment effect was observed for the interference in daily activities due to soreness, discomfort, or stiffness at 48 hours after exercise. Compared to placebo, the active group had a decrease of minus 1.82, which is just some arbitrary rating that they assigned to this interference period 48 hours post-workout. So there was no difference between the two groups related to objective measures around sleep quality or mood disturbance or recovery. One adverse event was observed. I guess one of the participants had diarrhea, was reported in the active group, while two adverse events were reported in the placebo group. One had dry mouth and the other one had eye rash. These results indicated that the beverage was well tolerated amongst participants. And so if you go to the paper itself and you scroll down to where they actually talk about the formulation, this is kind of interesting. So again, this isn't just regular CBD. This is nano emulsified CBD and CBG. Let me describe what that is for a second. So CBG and CBD, most cannabinoids are not very water soluble. And so they have to be emulsified in order to put them into a water-based solution. And still, they're not completely soluble. They're dispersed in an emulsion. You could think of dairy milk as an emulsion, right? It's emulsified fat in a continuous layer of water that you could continue to cut with water to continue to dilute the milk. And it never oils out because milk is properly balanced. So this is nano-emulsified CBD and CBG. It's been reported that cannabinoids in those forms have a rapid onset of activity and they're more bioavailable. So what bioavailable means is that when you take a cannabinoid, if you want it to completely be bioavailable, it has to, find all the cannabinoid receptors in your body or wherever it's acting on. Chances are a lot of the cannabinoids you're taking, especially CBD, because it's so water insoluble, ends up just binding to stuff in your alimentary canal and you end up discharging it when you go to the bathroom. So there's a lot of cannabinoid storage in adipose tissue and fat, and what that does is it delays the onset of activity. But when you have these nano-emulsified cannabinoids, now they don't bind to fat, but they go right to where the receptors are, and they go right into through the cell wall because they're so small, because they're nano in size. That's the whole nano thing. So the other thing is that I would have liked to seen this study done without magnesium citrate, because I think magnesium citrate sort of has a peripheral effect. Isn't that right, Dr. T? As acting as kind of like a muscle, not necessarily relaxant, but something that, again, affects.
Muscle relaxant. Muscle relaxant is a good word.
Okay, muscle relaxant is a good word. So I guess the ways that
Epsom salt is magnesium, right?
Right, that's magnesium sulfate. So this is magnesium citrate, so another type of magnesium salt. And the way that muscles contract and expand is through things called ion channels, and magnesium is an ion, so you're basically putting something into there that's going to affect it. It could affect it, it could be biphasic. Maybe at a certain dose it's going to contract the muscle, maybe at a lower dose it's going to relax the muscle. We just don't know. The other thing is that whenever you consume something just in a drink orally, it's going to be really just digested in this very harsh chemical reactor called your stomach, which is really, really harsh acid. So you got to wonder, about the metabolism of these things. When you put branched chain amino acids in there, I don't know that does anything at all, because amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and when you eat protein, like animal protein or vegetable protein, it's digested in your stomach to amino acids. So I'm not sure exactly why they put amino acids in there, maybe just a feel-good kind of thing. But it would be interesting if they actually did individual doses to look at the individual impact of all these ingredients. They just included all these ingredients in one formulation, gave it to their clinical populations, and these are the results that they observed. But I think, it's cool, right, Dr. T? Because I think what you're seeing here is that cannabinoids as a nutritional additive can have beneficial impacts in things like a beverage powder. So you could imagine this being just like a beverage powder you'd make, I don't know, I'm old
Gatorade.
School, so Carnation instant breakfast, but any of the
Gatorade.
Any of the powdered drink products today. But I can imagine that this study will be pointed to say that here's a study that actually says that athletes who are having this muscle soreness after workouts, that this can actually help. So that's the story today from the sunny shores of Lake Champlain up here in sunny Vermont. It's kind of sunny. Actually, it's gray out, but that's still kind of sunny. I'd love to hear what you all have to say about this. It's a great thing when we can talk about, advances in medical science, and I think exactly what Dr. T and I covered today kind of pushed that bar a little bit farther. So love to hear what you all say. Thanks, you High at 9 audience. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. Man, this is great news,
love this
Dr. Mark.
conversation.
Yeah, this is amazing. So can we go as far to say that cannabis or CBD and CBG can be rated as a sports enhancement drug now?
No.
Recovery.
Is Gatorade a sports enhancement drug?
Water is technically, right? Water is performance enhancing.
See?
Yeah.
Man,
And these things are anti-inflammatory, so they're probably having some peripheral anti-inflammatory effect, right? Which has a lot of downstream effects in the body, right, Dr. T? Like if you can control inflammation, especially like if you hurt yourself, like a sprain or something like that, controlling inflammation is a lot to do with controlling the pain, isn't it, right, Dr. T?
Yeah, I ran track and I played football back in the day when I was half my age. But and the soreness, the recovery is the key, right? If you can recover, pop back up the next day, then it's the key. So people are constantly trying to reduce inflammation as athletes. This is huge. We've been talking about this for a while, but what I think is interesting also, for those of you who were saying that the beverage industry is going nowhere, I think this is, where some indication that the beverage industry is going to go somewhere, and it might lap other products because it can be integrated into a product that anybody can take. CBD and CBG are not psychoactive, and so this could be have a wider audience.
Yeah, I like the concept of a powder. A powder that you can just kind of like tear open and pour into your seltzer or pour into your Coca-Cola or whatever. I mean, now you don't have to worry about the stability of the beverage on the shelf. All you have to do is make sure that the cannabinoids are right in the little, packet of sugar. You can imagine that those little packets of sugar can have, electrolytes, magnesium citrate, right, Dr. T? You could basically put everything that you have in a Gatorade into a little packet that you just tear open at the table at the restaurant and pour into your drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. Or those on the
field.
sidelines, or, there's always these jugs of Gatorade, right? They're made from powder. So you make that for the game, and people are just drinking it all the time. So it could be huge.
Yeah, when I was playing, they used to give us all these Gatorlight packs. So it was like extra electrolytes to add to our Gatorade while we were playing after practice. It's a very different formulation than the regular Kool-Aid bullshit that they give to the public. That's just all sugar. So I could definitely see this happening going forward. I think it's a huge announcement. And my question is, like I put it in the chat there, like what happened to all that CBD water that we were seeing? You remember that people were selling CBD water everywhere, like pre-COVID, and it just disappeared? Whatever happened to that shit?
It's still around. I mean, CBD water is old. People have been taking CBD flowers, boiling them in water, and drinking it forever. There's a couple studies on it. It's just less practical than stripping open a pack and dumping it into your water, a pack of powder, and dumping it into your water. So this is just more practical.
Remember, CBD is not water soluble at all, and so
flakes in it.
So it has to be nano-emulsified. It has to be nano-emulsified in a way that you can't. If you want it to look as clear as a glass of water, it's got to be. That takes a little bit of chemistry.
When you boil it in water, when you boil the flower in water, you get part CBDA, part CBD that solubilizes. But CBDA, because it solubilizes better in water than CBD, as you're saying.
Right.
Interesting.
We've done some studies on it. It's on our website. You can look up the results.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's not like you could make a concentrated solution of that, right? I mean, CBDA itself is not very water soluble, right? Not very water soluble.
It's more than CBD.
Right. I'll bet it
That's
is.
that's what we're
Well, you had something to say real quick,
T, I
Yarl?
really love that thinly veiled shot at Jason. Talk about those.
I was waiting for him to comment.
Hey, I mean,
Yeah. So Jason, if this becomes mainstream, will you reverse your stance that cannabis drinkables will never be a thing?
no, because you know what? Cannabis drinkables aren't going to be a thing. You know why? Because it's probably going to be more products like what Dr. Mark is saying, where it's going to be these packets of powders that you put into any beverage. So therefore, it's not going to help the cannabis beverage industry overall. So yes, I am right again, Rico. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial and we're going to be right back.
It'll technically be a drinkable. It'll fall into the
No, it won't. Because
category,
it won't. It won't. No, it won't. It won't. It'll sell as an edible. It won't sell as a.
He's going to be banging lines of it, right?
Drink.
He's going to be drawing lines of.
It'll sell as an edible. It'll sell as an edible.
Cannabis. Bring back Cannabumps.